Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview episode of What's New in Cloud FinOps with myself, Frank Contrepois, my great friend
Stephen Old.
And today we have a legend, and especially you can recognize his t-shirts all over every FinOps event. It's one of the best t-shirts I ever had. And then he evolved. When you look at his pictures of before in LinkedIn, and today you see the wise man coming out. And I'm obviously talking about the amazing Erik Norman. Please say something to our auditors. Who are you? They might not know you.
Well, hello, and thanks for the warm introduction. Wise man, I don't know. People still confuse me for an adult because of my age.
Yeah, it's details, don't worry.
Yeah, small details. Anyhow, I somehow stumbled into FinOps some years ago, come from software engineering, was new to the cloud actually back then, and had to do software optimization in the cloud suddenly from one day to the other. And that's how I discovered my love for FinOps, actually, when we overcome some very challenging situations in a very, very big organization. And that's me. I mean, I love talking to people. I love calling out bullshit. I love blunt and frank conversations.
There we go. And I'm not the Frank.
Yes. It's nice. It's one of those, Frank, where you're introducing where you say, my good friend Stephen Old, and I was thinking, Erik's our good friend.
Yes,
how do we say that as well?
Don't worry, he is also good. Yeah, but you are the co-host. Come on,
exactly.
You can't co-host.
You can't call me anything else. Yeah. My co-host and our good friend. On the point of the t-shirts, Erik was very kindly come up with a new t-shirt recently that was based on something I said, but he didn't tell me what it was. Just which talk it was. I said it, and I spent weeks trying to think of what interesting thing I said at this talk, and then in the end, it was quite a very blunt comment I made, which was thinking helps. I've gone through everything. I hadn't even thought about that. It's a very cool t-shirt. And it's true. Thinking does help.
It is true. Thinking does help. Yes.
Yeah. There we go. So, Frank,
yes,
you and Erik had the pre-chat today, so
absolutely.
I'm in the dark. So, what on earth are we talking about?
Here we go. So, what are we talking about, Erik? I know there was iron. We were talking about a triangle, maybe the musical. Go tell us everything about what you think we should debunking the iron triangle.
I think today we are gonna debunk the iron triangle as the golden standard for project management within FinOps. Because let's say it's very useful for a very limited amount of time.
Okay.
If you explain to somebody who has no idea about prioritization in large projects, how the iron triangle works, then they're happy. They say, wow, that makes so much sense. This is so cool. But if you have any background in engineering, software engineering, or whatever, where you have to produce something, then you will realize very quickly that actually quality is speed. Because you can move fast, but in which direction? I mean, so if you already put down some guardrails for quality and also invest time and resources, then you're actually going on average to achieve your goals much faster and more consistently in the long run. So in that sense, the iron triangle helps just to start the conversation or to explain something very, very short term. Otherwise, I would say it's counterproductive because people tend to think that they have to choose between quality and speed. And if it's a startup, they will do speed, no quality, and nothing else. So in that sense, I would say I would rather, if you have to quote the iron triangle, you have to put something more usable right after. Otherwise, it will going to be counterproductive.
This brings a few things to mind, and I'm trying to work out where best to start. I'm going to hopefully remember to ask you more about what do you mean that quality is speed. That's something that the listeners will not forgive me if I don't ask. I do appreciate as well, like the importance of it can be really useful to bring up with people earlier. And then, something more. I do a lot of FinOps training, right? So I explain the iron triangle to people, and then I try to explain about prioritization in general, and it's a big thing about how you start FinOps practice. And I talk about the Eisenhower quadrant principles, about urgency and importance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed how many people don't get their heads around that, because they really can't differentiate importance and urgency. But yeah, with the iron triangle, I think what you've said has been interesting, because you've talked about a choice between speed and quality. My view of the iron triangle is that you can have speed and quality together, but you do that at the sacrifice of cost.
No, I'm saying that you can have full speed, full quality, and full cost efficiency.
Because you put in good governance in place to manage the cost.
Because I don't see it as a triangle where you have to choose between the one and the other, but more like a radar chart in a RPG game where you build out stats in all directions, like a well-rounded character, and you max out every property and stat you have. Like you're a meta overpowered player that has maxed out everything. That is what you can get also in FinOps.
Okay, I love that analogy. My follow-up question would be that it's generally considered in FinOps that it is a poor investment choice to try to be running at everything. So if you imagine that radar chart, and we've got 22 capabilities, if you try to push them all out to run to the far ends of the radar, quite often you won't get the return on investment for that. Do you agree with that, principally?
I agree, yes.
Yeah, fine. But in this regard, these three things, we can max out or manage to get all three at once. You don't have to take the sacrifice.
Yeah, and I think I take it, I like the analogy of the RPG. So first of all, for listeners, the iron triangle is that you can have only two out of, so in the middle there is scope, that is what you need to deliver, and you can either go, it's speed, money, or what was quality.
Or quality.
And the idea is that it says that if you can have two of them, but not the third. That's what the arrow. So that, and it has lots of impact, not only in FinOps, but also, for example, in cloud engineering, because it's used also there that every decision is a trade-off decision. So you end up, it is reasonably big. What Erik is changing here is really interesting, because it has a huge impact rolling down the line. And if I understand you correctly, if we take that image of the radar graph, the spider web, I call it, but that's me. Is that what you're saying is, we might all start at the beginning, but slowly we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna start getting better at something, and then we're gonna increase our speed of delivery, and then we're gonna do more testing, and we're gonna spread our testing, and so that you start increasing every aspect of this, which over a certain amount of time will mean that you will go, compared to how you started, you're going to be way higher quality, way faster, absolutely excellent quality altogether in one go. So that, the way I'm starting to think about it is you have the iron triangle potentially in each one of those in the decision of the now, but over time, your job is to expand. So the discussion or the speed you had at the beginning is not the speed you have today. You can still decide, are we going to now increase the speed, or are we going to increase quality? But you're already way faster and way higher quality than you were, I don't know, 3 months ago. Something. That's how I see it. I'm trying to reframe it just to make sure I understand.
No, it's spot on. So yes, so I'm not debunking the iron triangle as a something not useful, but it has its limited usability or purpose. And if we use only the iron triangle when we explain this, then we risk to instill this image of you have to always choose. If you choose for speed, you can never achieve quality.
That stays. Go.
I think it's fantastic. I mean, the problem is, what else are we going to say? Because you've nailed it. No, the
so can I go now?
Thanks, listeners. No, there's a couple of things that jump to mind, but all very much in agreement, right? And so the first one is, when I use it, it's generally to explain to non-engineer techies that why the engineers are not always doing what they ask. And it's because their prioritization is regularly on getting good things out quickly. And that's what I talk about. Their focus is not on the cost of it for the most part. And that's why I think Iron Triangle will be really useful, is explaining the persona differences and the fact that you know, Mr. and Mrs. FinOps person might live in that cost corner doesn't mean that those other people live there. What I like about this is it doesn't matter that you both are living in different places. It's about how do you make it so you all level up by using each other's, you know, capabilities as a team to round out that thing, so it's no longer a decision. So really like that, and I've never framed it this way. I'm absolutely stealing it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Number 2 is one of the talks that me and Frank have given a bunch of times, along with a friend of ours, James, is about the turning of the, in fact, well, and Eric, you know him well as well, the turning of the iron triangle into the green square, I suppose I call it, when we start including impact, carbon impact. Now, there are absolutely cases where you can have cost efficiency, quality, speed, and carbon. There are, in this case, though, times where your cost choice and your carbon choice are going to be different. Now, I'm not saying that means the square is more valuable, but that is the only place where I think literally they're just sometimes the greenest option is the more expensive, and that's just the way it is, right? And I guess there will be times where sometimes the most high quality thing is going to be the most expensive, but there's a balancing act to that. You know, there might be the way you build it out or something. But they're good decisions to be making. It's not that you can't have them both. It's that kind of decision of, in this case, there's that balancing act.
I would again tie into any RPG game where you have a lot of experience that you transform into skilling up.
Yeah.
And the higher you get in skill, the more experience you have to collect to get to the next level.
Yeah.
So I would say it's the same here, more or less. Once you get outwards in the radar chart, then every decision again might get more expensive or cost more time to get there in cost of, upskilling or.
Yeah, so you are talking about the upskilling. So what the quality is, the return on investment is a diminishing return. Okay. I wanted to go back 2 seconds to our good, almost old friend now, Iron Triangle, and say one of his extremely powerful thing, it's his simplicity. Okay, is you can understand it. And it reminded me, because the Iron Triangle comes from project management, and that's just a funny bit. Is I'm reminded regularly when we're using those Gantt chart and those special project, and someone was explaining me, say, yeah, project manager is that person that think that if you put 9 moms together, you can get a baby one. And it is there are simplifications made to help, and they do help, and they do help explain. I think where is our next priority? Yes, Iron Triangle is one of these 3, but it might be more, but what part of we want to extend? And going to on other side, to Stephen's point, but also what do you use? There is, especially in the development world, but also in the FinOps world, a huge status ego thing. Okay, I am in various things. If you don't talk about AI, you're not talking about anything. If you include Oracle into any discussion, it is catastrophic because they're legacy. They're obviously useless and no one wants to work with them. And you say, yeah, they're doing great. There are tons of things. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't remember where it connected, but I remember that status when you say you want to get max out, you want to get bigger, you want to get stronger. There is a bit of what I'm going to use next is going to be the next shiny thing. Yep. And that is also taken into account. Cost more. Yeah, why? Because it's cooler.
Yeah.
But, Stephen points out something very interesting, and that is we sit in the cost corner of whatever geometric form we now have chosen. And engineering typically sit towards speed and speed and quality, possibly. The thing is, how can they upskill towards cost?
Yeah.
And I would like to quote something that I heard at a workshop at the FinOps meetup in London, which was brilliant. As an optimization strategy for cost saving, the best strategy was education.
Yeah.
That is simply put. I mean, only on AWS, there are over 200 services. If you say that you keep up with every one of them and know best about everything. I mean, you're not going to go to the engineer and tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, you are doing it wrong. I'm better than you in every category. They work
when you meet
24/7.
When you meet gold jacket people.
Yes.
I've known a few gold jacket people, and I can tell you they barely ever do, like if they're in like an MSP or like a consulting firm, professional service firm, they barely ever do hands-on work because all they're doing is keeping learning the things to be able to pass the exams. So you almost get to have that kind of scene level of knowledge. You almost lose all practicality.
Yep. So my point would also be, give these engineers time to upskill, time to reflect also maybe on stuff. Like brainstorm, or what I also love to organize from time to time is hackathons.
Yeah, 100%.
For cost efficiency or for performance, because performance and efficiency go hand in hand oftentimes.
Yeah, some real green light thinking, blue sky thinking. What if you could do anything to improve the performance and efficiency of this? What would it be?
Yeah, or also give them a Lambda function and say, this is a crappy Lambda function. Yeah. Make it the most efficient possible. You have 1 hour and the winner gets bragging rights and a stupid t-shirt, but they have to spill the beans on how they made it more efficient and what their reasoning was, because then everyone who came second, third, and so on, they will still learn. And that will trickle down into production code.
Yeah. I feel like maybe you've seen the Lambda code I created yesterday, based on this conversation. As I just rolled out a new app yesterday in Lambda, and I'm not 100% convinced of its efficiency, but it's still being free tier, so it's gonna be okay.
Not for long. It's not efficient.
But if it's only you using it when you click a button, almost every Lambda function is good enough. I mean, just don't get killed about that.
We could do some recursive Fibonacci if you want.
Yes, no, but yeah, I wanted to say it's really interesting because it's not the first time, and we all agree education is the key.
Yeah,
but and it's me. I've not investigated, but I can't think of where would be a good place for a developer. And it is, again, recently I'm context specific all over the place, but as you say, you have 200 tools, so you're probably going to use 10 if you're developing something. So how can you go deep dive into the cost of these 10s? Because the foundation as far stays quite high level, because that's they set the standards. I'm missing that deep dive into the product, even as a teacher, taking the time to go there, see how things are done, learning, being technical enough to learn the code and go deep dive, and then doing that education piece. It's not easy.
There are some kind of big rules that people could be aware of. Okay. I remember back, Frank, if you remember, to podcast number 3.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. 4 years ago, whatever it was. Is it 4? Hang on. It's 5 years.
Almost 5 years. Yeah, we had 5 years in a month.
6th of October. Wow. Dario.
Yes.
Can you remember Dario's story?
Yes. Compile. I was right. He was transforming Lambda functions from moving Python them to Go. And reducing from whatever size you needed to 128 megs are going to be way efficient.
Yeah, he'd taken, and so it was over 2 stages, Eric. He'd taken a monolithic app and broke it down into Lambda and put it into Python initially. And then, the company, and this is a good example. The company, he was a consultant, the company were really willing to pay him to do that because it went from, let's say, 30K to 3K. I'm making up numbers for roundness. And so, of course, we will pay you X months of development to do that. It's dead easy. But he said, the next bit is I can take it from $3,000 to 300 and make it 10 times faster. And they went, 2,700 a month saved. That's going to take a long time to pay itself back, even though it's the same percent, same 10 times saving and doing better. And it took him a lot longer to approve it. But he made massive savings. And that came down to, step out of the language you know best to the language that's going to work best. Only put in what has to be there. Stop taking all of those toys and comfort blankets in your code that you put everywhere just in case you probably might use it. And I actually think this is somewhere that where generative AI can actually help you is read my code and remove what doesn't need to be in there in terms of packages or that kind of stuff.
Usually it will be the first one adding stuff. I have tons of stuff in my code that AI has added in there.
Oh, really?
Why?
Yeah. If AI reads my code, it goes, no, that's not right. Well, it works. Leave me alone. There's bits like, so there are some interesting rules about that, and I think I always wonder because obviously the most efficient thing feels like it's going to only go down to serverless, right? And I think even containers, while they should be more efficient, we just see people carry on the same bad practices of VMs into containers where they put headroom in, and so you end up getting headroom on headroom on headroom.
Yeah, but honestly, containers are not made for efficiency.
Nope.
Their purpose is
speed
not
of loading.
Efficiency. Their ease and speed of development, ease of development and speed of deployment.
Yeah, speed of deployment was why we used them back in the day in retail.
They have quite a cool thing which I've discovered is you have that sandbox. You can run almost like a command. I had a command which was, I don't know, whatever is the name of my program, and it will just run into a Docker, do the stuff, put the output. So I can have a sandbox command. And if it's a complicated bit, or if I'm a vendor, it gives me that thing when I can hide, let's put it this way, everything into it. So it has, and the networking works brilliantly well. On the other side, because what was that? There is also scale, I think, into that, what you say. So yes, serverless is brilliant. But I would say, okay, if I put a good Apache, a very good old Apache on a server, it can manage 5,000 requests per second, easy peasy. Okay, very easy. The cost on a Lambda will get extremely fast, extremely high.
But that is honestly where I would say now, you are not a cloud solution architect if you use Lambda for high request workloads.
Yeah, but that's what it was a beautiful article about also, for example, Oracle, who is benefiting from what they needed for database, like fast network and all this kind of stuff, in making them cool for AI, because they've never focused on scalability. They've focused on big iron monolithic things, which is exactly what AI is, by the way. So in some form, I'm simplifying there, but on the other side, you have the three hyperscalers who tell you in their marketing, you can scale to infinite, and it is.
We've disproven that.
Yeah, but ignore that bit. But but it was quite interesting to see that you still have those two worlds, and Lambda, serverless is definitely one place. If you want pure serverless, it's Cloudflare. I've went to start doing some fun thing with Cloudflare. Absolutely brilliant. They only have serverless. Okay, you have no choice. It's not that I want a VM. No. You write serverless, the database. So I like that approach too. But anyway, another comment that came
let's
to mind.
now just take the example of something that has a high volume of input the whole time. I mean, you could use Kinesis.
Yep.
Yeah.
And your Lambda function, you can attach that to Kinesis for data transformation. You can put it into Glue, whatever. And it's so much, obviously, the thing is, the scale is important. So for development, obviously, Kinesis is expensive to run in development. But in production, if you have that number of requests per second, it might be the most cost efficient ever, compared to any other setup using Lambda or using Dockers or stuff.
Sure, so there's great examples of things like this where is serverless cheaper? Aurora serverless is a fantastic example. Right? Has anyone used it in anger?
No, I've worked on a project where we managed to crash it.
Oh, there we go. Right. So it has a minimum running cost, right? And for speed of deployment, fantastic. That seems really beneficial. But I was actually I was doing a review for somebody, and they'd chosen to use it because they didn't know what their workloads were going to look like long term. It was a startup, it was going into that stages, and we looked at it and just kind of went, "It's your biggest cost by a mile. What are the request counts, and what are you expecting to be?" And that was part of their problem. They didn't really know where the request counts were going to be. But obviously, you can't put RIs or anything against it. Or anything like that. So you're paying an uplift for the fact that you're getting this a flexibility of deployment speed, which is not that much quicker. It's a bit quicker. And the ability, the scaling ability is better. But at quite a premium you have to really get quite a high amount of requests and need for constant change to make it worthwhile. Yep. So you can't, in a lot of ways, we kind of go, oh, if it's gonna have low request levels, then do you know what? I'll build a Lambda out. I'll go serverless. But actually, we like the serverless mindset. We have to be really careful about, because when we go into serverless PaaS kind of concepts, or what feels like serverless PaaS, actually, low request volumes is the worst time to use it. In comparison. And these are the things that, like, say, like my background as an architect, Eric, you're developing on architecture, Frank, developer data and all of this. So we've got quite a mix of backgrounds, but we have spent a lot of time doing research and doing these kind of pieces because it's been our jobs. A lot of architects have come from an on-prem world. They've gone and learned what they had to, often through a lift and shift.
Yep.
They're now hopefully starting to get into things where they're doing a bit of greenfield or beginning to modernize. But they will still only make the steps, and the first step will probably be containers. And like you say, they're designed efficiently, and they're certainly not often used efficiently. And then there's a black box, and the data's not there because the move to it has not been done by someone that thinks about the data side of it and how we're going to get that piece out, and it just creates a new black box. And Lambda probably seems a step too far, but then they kind of go, oh, we need something that can scale quickly. We'll go Lambda, for instance, in this case, because we don't want to use EC2 for this new thing. But then actually hit that whole problem of, oh, but is it high requests? That's the worst. These kind of pieces, there is, to Frank's point, very little education about it out there. Yeah. Very hard to go and find those bits. And so even the examples I've got in my head are from my mistakes or from mistakes of people I know. It is a hard thing to get your head around.
I think it would be fairly easy to cure.
Continue.
Let's say that we want to migrate a legacy company to the cloud. Okay. Then anyone hired for the cloud team, I would ask, let's say that hopefully they go for one cloud and not for some multi-cloud because marketing. That's the only reason you go multi-cloud, basically. I would simply say, okay, dear solution architect, design me a configuration management database system with full audit trail, user management, whatever, all the bells and whistles, stuff like that. And they will go along, spend a couple of hours on that and draw a complex diagram, so on. Okay. Then you show them, take a whiteboard with all the AWS icons and say, here, drag AWS config on the whiteboard, done. That is your change management database. It has a full audit trail. You can configure all the access you want. That should be the source of truth of what is running in the cloud, because that is one-to-one what is running in the cloud, right? And then you do the same for logging. You do the same for observability. You basically force them for at least a couple of days training only to use the cloud-native products, because otherwise they will say, yeah, we have always used whatever, Splunk or Dynatrace and stuff. So they will come in and hire a Splunk team. They will hire a Dynatrace team. They will hire the Databricks team and then also the ServiceNow and CMDB team, because, Bud is from before and we just move the whole shift.
The old problem. Yeah.
And so I think it would be fairly easy if you just force them, because basically AWS has basically a dedicated service for everything of these. You don't need to build a 2-year, 50 people cloud platform project for this. If you basically could click ops from day one, and then you learn how to Terraform, and then you create DevSecOps or GitOps or whatever your preferred poison is. I would say that most of these legacy enterprise companies now running in the cloud could run the same amount of workloads with, I would say, somewhere between 10 and 30, 40 times less people with really a skeleton crew if they went with one provider and leveraged everything that has. Because the thing is, everyone will now cry, oh, vendor lock-in. Yeah, but you are vendor locked in with your Datadog, with your Databricks, with your ServiceNow, with every legacy enterprise data and infrastructure management system. And I mean, think of all the bills that you have paid for that HR, for those enterprise systems, which are not cheap by any means.
No, it used to always really get to me. I remember working when I was consulting in the transformation space back in the kind of SRE days, and went into a client and they had someone trying to push Snowflake. I've got no problem with Snowflake particularly, but the reason they were doing it is because at the moment they were using a third party outside of their data center, and felt they had limited control of their data, so they wanted to move and put it into Snowflake. And I just went, but it's just a different black box. Your data is still going into someone else's world, and all you have is a pretty GUI on the front of it that you don't have at the moment. If you're worried about if you want functionality and all this, absolutely fantastic. But if you think you're gaining, what you say you're gaining, you're wrong. We could build something open source to do something very similar if you want control and ownership and full visibility. If you want modernization, then and you don't want to have to worry about that and control that and maintain that, different ballgame. This is before there were really viable God, I'm sure, mate, it's probably like 6-7 years ago, before there were viable native versions, unless you want to go Redshift, which is horrifically expensive, etc. But people openly went into those kind of tools, like you say, whether it's on-prem or anywhere else, openly went into these tools and have huge amounts of vendor lock-in. But because of the marketing, there has been this whole drive around vendor lock-in going into my serverless or stuff like that, when actually, used in the right way, it's the reality is it's just something you can't do somewhere else. Although I always found it interesting how Firecracker never really took off. I don't know if you remember that 2018 reInvent has announced that they'd open sourced what goes underneath Lambda.
I read about it, but
still there.
Yeah, still there, but yeah.
They were trying. I think Werner Vogel talked about it last year or the year before, and it was that they started with containers for Lambda and it didn't work because, as we say, it doesn't scale. So they created something new, which is Firecracker. And as far as I understand, AWS is, you seem to say that AWS is the only one using it. I've never even looked at it.
Yeah, at least they are using it.
Yeah.
It's not the self-driving Apple car.
Yes.
Indeed. We've
gone all over.
Yeah, we've gone all over.
It is one of the best compact episodes. I think if you were to carry it, a ton of ideas.
I don't. This can sound terrible, listeners. I don't listen to our podcasts because I'm there. But I might listen to this one because there's been some clever things said that I possibly want to digest again. I would love to say that some of them came from me, but I think I'll be bitterly disappointed on my return of listening. But Erik, you've made us think, and it's not often. We're nearly I think I'm nine bit years in FinOps now. It's not often someone makes me think. And the beginning title did.
Somebody said
thinking helps. Exactly. Yeah, I thought when we were going to talk about debunking the iron triangle, I was going to definitely disagree with you. But
he was ready.
I was ready. I was just like, how could he think that? But
how dare he?
How dare he? I've got that on a lot of slides.
Well, now you have a nice story to add. A little bit.
Oh, mate, it's genius. I love how you described it. It certainly works for how I learned. So, yeah, just thank you very much for just an invigorating conversation. To be honest,
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Yes. Me too.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday, which obviously at the time when the listeners herein will already have passed.
I'm not there.
Not sure.
So my team will be there. Jordan and Lauren, you'll love them. They're fantastic. They're far funnier and nicer than I am. I'm not there this time. I've got a funeral on Tuesday.
Ouch.
So I'll be there. So let's connect. Let's see if we can do something on Monday evening too. And yes, listeners, you will listen because I'm going to get this today and publish it either today or tomorrow morning.
Wow.
Yeah, no, we are that all the editing is going to be done in 15 seconds, which means
we're normally quick as long as I remember to send it to Frank in time. That is normally the abiding. So if we ever don't get it out on the day, it's never Frank. It is always I haven't sent it.
Yeah, it's because I have templates. It's very fast.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Erik. It's been really, really good having you. Thank you, Stephen, for all your enlightenment ideas and experience.
Come back soon, Erik. With a topic like that, just come back soon. We can't wait to have you again.
I would love to.
Perfect. Thank you,
Thank you, listeners. Bye-bye.
Bye.